Alright, I wanted to talk about the collective consciousness and share some of my thoughts on what the collective consciousness is and why it's so important for people to think for themselves and to expand the collective consciousness. When I try to visualize and attempt to explain what our collective consciousness is, I think of a number graph like in math class. A number graph with a whole bunch of points that are all connected by lines, and they collectively make a larger shape composed of all the connected points. It's like the collective brain. Our collective consciousness is like the collective brain that creates the reality that we all perceive. So basically, every single person contributes their own little piece to the collective consciousness, and the reality that we share is the sum of everyone's individual consciousnesses together. I don't even know if consciousnesses is a word, but it sounded good. When someone has an original idea, it creates a new point on this graph of already existing points. It expands it by 1 point. The person will make this new point by taking already existing points and doing calculations between these points, and then the new point is connected to the other relating points, and it increases the total of the consciousness. The collective consciousness is growing infinitely and in all directions, non-stop. New ideas or points are constantly being generated based upon the current ideas or points. So basically, like each point is an idea, and it keeps growing. And depending on what types of points we are creating will dictate the reality that we live in. So if we're all driven by fear and we're creating these points based out of fear, our collective consciousness will be fueled by fear, where we're not really in full power. We're like a victim to the reality instead of creating something out of love, which would be the opposite of fear. And love is like the balance and the calm and the unity that we can achieve. And the more that we expand our collective consciousness and form new ideas, is the more that we can actually perceive of this reality, and the more we will naturally evolve into creating a better world for ourselves and all living things and the planet itself. This is why it's so important to educate ourselves and expand our minds by taking information that we currently have and using it to form new and original ideas. This is exactly why the powers that be in our current world right now are intentionally dumbing us down and trying to make us all think the same and conform to the same system. They want the masses to all be the same, and anyone who thinks for themselves or uses critical thought is labeled as crazy or weird. It's almost as if our matrix has a virus that is programmed to make us use our power of creating consciousness against ourselves. I do believe that humans have free will and that we create our own reality, but this so-called virus has tricked us into using our free will on only a few select choices, and none of these choices actually benefit humanity as a whole. It's like this virus in the matrix would be a virus of fear, which causes division and causes us to work against each other. But on the bright side, now more than ever, it seems to be like people are waking up. People are challenging this matrix control system, and they're breaking free by thinking for themselves and acting out of love and forming their own new and original ideas. There's a lot of people coming together to make the world a better place. Instead of being scared and just accepting this reality, we're actually changing it. And anything that we can imagine, we can create it. The more people who think for themselves and create new ideas, then the faster this virus or this fear will lose its power and its control over our minds. We live in a dualistic, push and pull, active-reactive type of reality. This makes me think of yin yang, light and dark, fire and water. It's a balance of opposites. Our universe is composed of the balance of opposite forces. To find balance between these opposites, it would create a calm and unity and oneness. And this is what I think the great philosophers meant by love, this balance and oneness. It's the balance of opposites. This is why the divide and conquer tactic has worked so effectively at turning humans against each other and tricking us into blaming other people for our own problems just because they think differently than we do. And you can see it all over the media. And 6 big corporations own 90-something% of the media, so what they put on there is what they want you to see, and it gives you a false sense of reality. You see fear-mongering, division, black versus white, Democrats versus Republicans, poor versus middle class, etc. And it's making us focus on one side or the other and living in fear and hating each other when we're really all the same. We're unique, but we are all the same. We are all one consciousness, connected like these points. On a bigger scale, each one of us is a point, and we're all connected. And we create this. This is the whole point. The power's ours. It's time for us to do something. The only thing that we're doing by blaming other people for our problems is giving away our power to fix our problems and to create our own reality. Even the elites who seem to have turned us against each other and who seemingly have all the money and all the power, they don't really have any power over us. We're giving our power to them, and it's ours to take back. If we simply could unite and take back our power, and what if we chose not to comply with society and all these rules and laws that extort us? Who would stop us? Nobody. We're the 99%. We're 7 billion people giving our power away to literally 1% of the people. It's becoming obvious now. This is our world. We are all one. Let us open our minds and create a better world for future generations. And, teach your kids to think for themselves. Don't force them to conform into this society. Teach them to think for themselves and form their own ideas. Kids are born with such amazing imaginations, and they create their own little worlds by, playing or drawing or building. Encourage their imaginations. Encourage them to think their own thoughts. And then when they're adults, they're going to make this reality much better than ever before. Don't force everyone to be the same. We're not all the same. Even Einstein had a quote. He said, "Everybody is born a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid." And that basically states that we're all unique and we all have our own gifts to share, and you can't expect all people to just act the same and fit in the same system. And we don't have to. We can take all our power back right now in the snap of a finger. It could all be ours again, like it should be. And I guess that's all I have for now. Much love, everybody.